Hey you guys, Fellas Uber here, back at it again with this. I'm back, and I just realized I fucked up something back in part 2. I completely forgot the fact that Deku is technically 15 now, right? I'm gonna say Mina is a little bit older and she's 16 when Deku's 15. Yeah. We're gonna go with that. Yeah, where we last left off, they had just left the club. I'm gonna say it was midnight whenever they left. And they get back to Mina's apartment. And when they start walking towards the apartment building, Deku asks Mina, "So, are your parents going to be a problem?" And Mina goes, "No, they're out of town for the rest of this week." And Deku goes, "All right, that's perfect." Well, they go up and they enter her apartment, and you'd imagine what they would do. That's about. I'm not going to get into that. Sure, but like afterwards, I want to say now it's like 2 a.m. Deku wakes up, and then he doesn't wake up. He was never asleep. Mina's asleep, and Deku gets up and starts looking around, and he starts trying to find Mina's phone, and he finds it. And it has a very easy to guess passcode. Deku has a massive intelligence. I would go into all this right now, but I don't want to because I would just bore the fuck out of you guys. So I'm not gonna go into how his intelligence, how any of that shit works. And Deku finds out, it's like 2 a.m. It's like, okay, I could probably run to the electronics store. So he opens up Mina's window, and he hops out. And he turns into the guy he used to get into the club. He just runs towards the convenience store. He gets there within about a minute. Not a minute, 2 minutes. He walks inside, and he gets an iPhone. He just randomly picks one. It was a pretty expensive one, but hey, lucky him, he brought along one of the many wallets he has at his house. And he just so happened to have just a little bit over extra. So he gets the iPhone, he gets it all set up. And he checks the phone number, and he sprints back to Mina's house. Transforms back into his normal self, climbs through the window, writes his phone number down on a notepad, rips it off, and leaves it right next to, right on the nightstand. And he heads out. Because, he can't stop his killing just for some sex. Remember, kids, murder before hoes. So Deku leaves. And, he's on the prowl of the night streets. Carefully watching and listening. And that's whenever he hears a gunshot. Deku immediately sprints over towards a gunshot without even hesitating. And as he's running, he looks down and analyzes. It's a gang shootout. And Deku thinks this is going to be fun. He jumps up into the air. And Deku transforms. He doesn't transform his, arms or anything. He just transforms his fingers into blades. They are about an inch longer than his fingers normally, and they're not that hard and they're not that easy to notice. But they are extremely sharp, like as sharp as any of his other weapons. They're just highly unnoticeable. Right, so he walks up to one of the gang members who is in this alleyway hiding for cover. He stabs him in the back, right, penetrating their spine all the way, cutting straight through it. His arm comes out the other side. He then takes his hand and stabs all 4 of his fingers into the guy's chest, twists his hand to the left and then to the right, takes his hand out, and then consumes the guy. And then whenever he consumes him, the gun gets moved into his hand. He just checks it, see if the guy didn't use up all of his ammo. It's still loaded, so Deku's like, okay, well, looks like we're going to do this undercover style. And he starts pretending to be this gang member, blasting out the opposite gang. And Deku has perfect accuracy, because it's fucking. He has, you know how accurate Alex Mercer has never used the lock-on feature with any guns. He never misses. I never freeze. So yeah, Deku takes out a few gang members and he thinks to himself, "This is boring." He switches back into his normal self. Moves the gun. The guy was holding a pistol, by the way. He moves the gun over to his left hand, and his right hand is still, like I said, it was blades for fingers. Not like claws though; they're not that big and that noticeable. He walks up to a member who is holding an assault rifle. He stabs it into the side of their neck, shoots the guy right next to him, and then the other gang members look at Deku and see him doing this shit, and they immediately start firing on Deku. Deku uses the guy he has his fingers currently inside of. No homo. And he lets him take up all the body shots. And the other gang members use this opportunity to shoot at the gang members who are shooting at Deku. Killing some of them. Deku's throwing the body at the ones who are shooting at him. He then, his cover's blown, so he takes his entire right arm and turns it into the blade arm, while still holding the pistol in his left hand. He shoots at the gangsters on the other side of the street, while slashing through the ones on his side of the street, right? He ends up killing all of them, because, it's Deku, he's a fucking badass. He thinks that this pistol could come in handy. So he puts it back in his jacket, and he goes around and he finds a couple magazines for it. Mags, or whatever the fuck you want to call them. He then goes and finds all the gangsters that look important, and consumes them, gaining all their inside knowledge. Turns out that they're a very, very big, prominent drug cartel. And Deku thinks about this and he goes, "I've got a lead." So he goes to their main cartel place. Not main cartel, where most of the members from the guys who are mainly shooting at Deku were from. And, he disguises as one of the grunts he consumed. And he walks in. They don't bat an eye. Deku has all this guy's memories, all the guy's mannerisms, speech, way he talks, all of it. Right down to a point. And Deku decides that he has a little plan. He doesn't just want to kill these people, he wants to make a spectacle out of it. So what does he do? He goes and finds... He starts looking around through some of the rooms, and he finds a guy huffing gasoline in the back. Deku walks in, and the guy says, "Hey, you can't be back here," in a very high tone. Not like high tone of voice, but like he's very high, and his voice sounds like, and goes, "Get the fuck out of here." Deku goes, "Nah, I'm gonna need to borrow some of this stuff from you." Grabs the guy's face, smashes it into the wall to the point where the back of the guy's face was perfectly up against the wall. And yeah, Deku crushed this guy's head. He then consumes him, gaining his memories. He picks up a gasoline keg. Goes, "This ought to work." And Deku... And they're having a big gathering, right, in the middle of this big building, and Deku's hiding behind a wall. And he looks at his left hand. And then, so the way Alex Mercer works is that he is a literal living virus that can control anything about the human body, the way it works, how it evolves, and everything like that. Including biomass, the way the biomass works, and how he can convert it. So, I'm going to go out on a whim and say this is pretty fucking easy to do. Yeah, because if he can create metal out of his flesh, I'm pretty sure he can do this shit. So Deku looks at his hands and he starts to generate heat. This heat starts to turn his... He mutates his left index finger into a blade. And it starts getting hotter to the point where it's literally red hot. It's literally, glowing, whatever they call it. I guess the 1,000-degree knife challenge. Takes a gasoline keg, right? He slashes it open and starts leaking gasoline. He then shoves his finger in and flings it off and igniting the gas and causing it to kaboom in the middle of everyone. Killing a lot of people. Deku, then, turning back into his Alex Mercer Zuku clusterfuck form, whatever the fuck you want to call it, with his blade arm on his right arm, right, and his claw arm on his left arm, he lunges at them, slicing off two of their heads, turns around, impales the smaller part of the blade arm into a guy behind them, and slashes another guy into 3 pieces. And he goes ape shit on these motherfuckers. And then he goes up into where the main boss guy, he doesn't know what the fuck to call him. And Deku just kicks the door open. The door goes flying off the hinges and hits the other wall. Deku walks in, and the guy is sitting behind a chair. He stands up, and he pulls out a pump shotty. And shoots 2 shotgun shells into Deku. Bang, bang, leaving a massive hole in Deku's chest. Deku puts his hand over the hole and goes, "Oh no, whatever shall I do?" Very sarcastically. And this scares the shit out of the guy, and the hole just heals up. Deku goes, "That's not gonna work on me, friend." As he then grabs a shotgun barrel and squeezes it to completely closing it, right? He then brings the shotgun barrel up, hitting the guy in the face. Deku then grabs the guy by his neck, lifts him up, and then crushes his neck. Deku then consumes him. He goes, "I think that's enough for just one night. That should put the fear in some people." As Deku, instead of leaving through the door, no, that would take too long. He just breaks through the fucking wall. Literally, not giving a fuck. He breaks through the wall, walks out of the building, and he goes back to his apartment area. Now, I'm gonna say Deku did take some souvenirs. By souvenirs, I mean the drugs they had there, so that way he could then sell and then kill the people who bought them from him. And I don't mean like drug addicts from the street. I mean like from other gangs and cartels who bought them from him. Because Deku doesn't really get high. The only way he can get high is if he snorts like a shit ton of crack. When I say shit ton, I mean like probably a literal ton of crack. Yeah, around that part, and then he'll probably get a little bit high. Ain't no way in hell he's gonna get high off a pot. That shit can get him high. Probably heroin would get him pretty high too, and meth. I don't know how he got here. Anyways, Deku brings his spoils from war, his loot that he had stolen from those scoundrels. Dumps him on the floor. And Deku lays down on his bed, closes his eyes. And then he doesn't sleep. He just lays down and closes his eyes to pass time very quickly. I know, but it's not sleeping. His brain never shuts down, and he just can speed up time for himself. Because, like, our brains have, they are what controls how we see time, perceive time, and it's kind of why whenever you have a lot of fun, your brain doesn't really focus on perceiving time, and that's why it goes by a lot faster. When you're bored as all hell, it doesn't really have a lot to do, so it only focuses on time mainly, and that's why it feels like 10 minutes feels like an hour. Deku has complete control over this, however, and speeds the fuck up out of time, and then boom, next day. Deku stands up, opens up his door, and he uses his quirk. Ping. Alright, nope, she's in UA. So Deku heads to UA. He doesn't go inside, he just watches from a building outside. He knows exactly where his sister is at all times. And he knows where... Oh, I'm tired. He knows where Mina is too, at all times. So Deku is just sitting there over observing UA. And Deku says, this place is kind of... He looks and he thinks to himself, this place is just kind of like one big middle finger to all villains, huh? And he thinks to himself, it'd be interesting to see what would happen if UA were to get invaded by villains. Deku continues watching. And he speeds up time, of course, for himself. And bam, it's the end of the school day. And Deku watches as his sister leaves the building, and she's talking to Mina. Deku is there just watching, and he decides that he doesn't really need to be watching and overseeing her this much. She can handle herself, she's strong. But Deku will always be protective of his sister. Even though he's a psychopathic murdering fucking monster. Family's what's important, guys. And we're gonna go ahead and skip a couple days. Deku has just been killing petty criminals and like rapists and gang members, as well as just thieves. Back alley criminals. And Deku. And we're gonna go ahead and skip to the day of the USJ attack, right? Deku was stalking a guy, right? And he starts talking to 3 other people. And he watches this guy start talking to 3 other people, right? And they mention something. This is what they say. They go, are you guys ready for the big thing that's going to go down pretty soon? They go, oh yeah, you know I'm ready. And Deku's like, what the fuck are they talking about? He goes, why am I eavesdropping? He just drops down in the middle of all 3 of them and just says, well, I hope you guys have begged for forgiveness, because if you don't, I feel sorry for you. And he literally cuts one of the guys pure in half, grabs another guy and snaps his neck like a twig, and kicks another guy in the stomach, and his foot goes into the guy's stomach and out his back, and the guy keeps on going into a brick wall. Deku consumes all 3 of them, taking their wallets and shit. And that's how he learns of the attack on the USJ. Bum, bum, bum. Deku immediately just says, oh no, and starts sprinting towards the USJ. As Deku starts arriving, he starts to hear a lot of fighting noises. And he jumps towards the entrance of the USJ. Doors are locked. So you know what Deku does? He just grabs hold of the handle and just tries to pull on it. He just pulls on it with all of his strength and literally just rips the handle off. Deku sighs, drops it, grabs a hold of the door itself, squeezes the metal, bending it, and just moves it open, snapping the locks on it, and walks inside. Like, it was literally, for him, it felt softer than air. Like, there was almost no resistance. So Deku moves inside the the USJ. And what does he see? He sees all the kids fighting and shit. And his first thought is, his sister. Ping, finds her. The other side, and instead of Deku being on the boat with Asui and Mineta, is instead her, Yumi, and Mineta, and Asui. So Deku's like, oh, okay, well, I gotta go help her first. And he lands right next, close to it on a big rock. He's overwatching, he's about to spring into action. When all of a sudden, their whole plan that they start doing. They start doing the plan that they did in the anime. It goes exactly the same. Except for it's a girl, and she and Yumi does break her finger. This makes Deku angry. He is very angry. So he just literally leaps from the rock, dashes, he then glides. As he's gliding, all the villains see him start gliding towards them, and Deku does a dive bomb into the ground, 3 feet away from them. Asui gets into a fighting position. Mineta runs far away and hides behind a rock. And as Yumi gets into a fighting position as well. Deku looks up and Yumi realizes it's Izuku. She goes, "Izuku? What are you doing here?" And Deku says, "I found out what was gonna happen. I was hoping I'd get here before it happened." And he starts looking around and he goes, "But that didn't quite go to plan." Yumi goes, "Izuku, you should go help someone else." Deku goes, "But you're hurt." And she goes, "I'm fine, Izuku. Just go find someone else to help her fine." Deku goes, "Okay, I get the point." He leaps up very high to the air and glides out towards... I'm going to say he goes to Kaminari's area. And this is right after Kaminari's electric zap. Except it didn't quite go to plan. It did knock out most of the villains. But, it only took out 70% of them. There's still 30% of the villains around him. Kaminari being basically useless. Momo being, having her boobas exposed and really not having a plan anymore. And Jiro being Jiro. They had to very quickly think of a plan and try to get the stupid idiot out of there. So Deku starts gliding, right? That's when one of the villains has a quirk. I'm gonna say the quirk is called Devil's Grip. What it does is basically he can kind of power up and he gains horns and a tail, and it basically makes him faster and stronger and shit like that. He lunges at Kaminari, because Kaminari's a fucking dense idiot right now. More than he already is. So Deku immediately just breaks out of his glide, turns his right arm into a whip fist, sends it down, right? And this guy is literally mid-lunge whenever Zuku's whip fist penetrates his back, comes out of his chest, and hits the ground. The guy keeps on going, right? And the whip fist sends its elastic-like. The guy literally goes forward, it catches him, and then throws him back as Izuku pulls him up into the air. While he's going up, Izuku elbows the back of his head, cracking his head and killing him, while breaking his neck as well and crushing his brain. Deku then grabs a hold of the guy's neck, right? The guy's dead right now. His neck is basically powder. And then he choke slams his dead body into the middle of all these people. Deku takes his... lets go of the guy and there's blood all over his arm. Deku wipes that off. He goes, "Alright, fuck You fuck faces, come on. See if you can fight me. And they all go, oh, this guy thinks he's a hot shot, huh? Let's show him. And they all lunge at Deku, and Deku goes, perfect. As he equips this new attack, right? And basically, what it is, it's like the whip fist, but instead, the entire sides are just blades all the way down towards a point, not just a point having one big blade around it, or like minor spikes. It's like just one long blade with a very tip that's very elasticy. So it's kind of like blade arm combined with whip, right? He turns both his arms into it and just does a like inwards X slash, and it cuts all the villains in half with one single movement. Deku says, damn, I hope that'd be more fun. Turns his arms back into normal. And he starts to walk away, and that's when Jiro says, who the hell are you? Deku turns back and goes, I'm Stain. And continues walking down. And he starts to see Aizawa beating the fuck out of people, just owning everybody. Deku's like, I want to get in on that action. So he puts one foot down and he leans forward. And as he's leaning forward, he kicks off. And he starts fucking flying towards the center. And he lands in a big crowd, right? And he starts fighting off. He starts fighting them off. And then Aizawa starts to notice, hey, why are they crowding over there? And that's whenever he sees Deku just beating motherfuckers up. That's when Aizawa jumps out from where he is and over to Deku. Says, who the fuck are you? Deku goes, oh, hi, I'm Stain. Oh, hi, I'm Stain. Nice to meet you. I work at retail. Hi, yes, I'm Stain. And they just start fucking beating the shit out of villains. And this is when the Nomu comes out. And Shigaraki goes, Nomu, kill Aizawa and that fucking freak in the jacket. And points to Deku. And the Nomu obliges Shigaraki. Sprints at Aizawa, right? And doesn't really pay attention. He's too busy fucking up villains. The Nomu goes to grab at fucking Aizawa and misses because Aizawa is a fucking boss and dodges. Nomu, instead of grabbing this time, just backhands Aizawa. You know, swinging his left arm over, hitting Aizawa square in the chest, hitting him flying. That grabs Deku's attention. Deku then turns around and sees the Nomu. The Nomu looks at Deku and sees him. Deku just lunges at the Nomu, and the Nomu catches Deku in midair right? And he has both of his arms around Deku's chest. The Nomu, without hesitating, just uses all of its strength to crush Deku's abdomen. And it works. It crushes Deku's abdomen, turning the bones basically into powder. Collapsing his lungs and everything. Deku pretends to be dead. Right, and then Aizawa looks up and just sees Deku's crunched accordion body. Goes, God damn it. Nobody else is really paying attention to Deku because they're all too busy fighting their own battles. That's when Deku opens up his eyes again and says, you thought that would work on me? And just expands his chest again. And then he sends out spikes from all over his mid-torso area, penetrating the Nomu's hands. The Nomu tries to let go, but lets go and tries to pull his hands off the spikes, but Deku has him enlarged the tip of each spike, meaning that the Nomu had to pull out chunks of its hands just to let go of Deku. And it does. And it lifts up its arms together, right, after it lets go of Deku do it, and grabs both one hand, right, with the other, and was about to slam his arms down, right, and it does that, and Deku puts up his hand. So then you hear this, all of a sudden they hear this loud boom when everyone turns around to look. All I see is Deku, one arm up, blocking this Nomu's super powerful downward strike, right? And Deku, his feet, he's in the concrete, and he's about up to his ankles in the concrete. Deku goes, you're gonna have to try again. takes his left arm, turns it into a blade, and stabs the Nomu in the gut. He pulls himself out of the concrete, stabs it farther in, and then he turns it from that into just basically where his hand would have normally been, it would into a circle, a sphere, I guess. And then he shoots shit tons of spikes all over that, just penetrate and rip through the Nomu's skin and flesh, breaking bones and shit. Nomu tries to fight back, but its lungs and shit is all pierced. And Deku is currently emitting a chemical that stops regeneration. And the Nomu dies right there. Deku decides not to eat all the Nomu. Instead, just turns his arm back to normal, walks up to the Nomu's brain, and pretends to look at it. What he actually does is he takes out a piece of the brain and consumes it, so that he can gain the memories. Now, how mine works is that if he eats any amount of your DNA, he can become you, but he won't gain your memories unless he eats part of your brain or your neurological pathways, or whatever the fuck it's called. So yeah, basically he'll have all your physical characteristics, but none of your mental shit, unless he eats part of your brain. And so that's what he did. Now he gains all the Nomu's memories. Jiraiya goes, "This is bullshit. All Might didn't even get to show up." And that's when All Might busts through the door and he goes, "I am here." And he's not smiling. And Yumi looks at him and says, "He's not smiling." Oh no. But she sees him. She sees him and she sees how he's not smiling, how he's upset. And then he notices that Aizawa just has a very fucked up chest. He broke a rib, but that's about it. And he sees Deku's there. All Might sprints down and walks up to Zuko and says, "Who are you, young man?" Deku goes, "I'm no one you need to know." She starts to walk away, and that's when All Might grabs his arms and says, "No, you're not leaving." Deku looks at him, and then he points to the Nomu and says, "You'd be making a very unwise decision, All Might. Now I suggest you let go of me." And Deku is kind of making this face right here whenever he says that. Very fucking threatening. And All Might doesn't let go, so Deku turns his left arm. All Might has a hold of his right arm. Deku turns his left arm into a blade arm. Points at All Might and says, like I said, it's very unwise for you to not let go of my arm. Now please, let go. I don't want to have to hurt the symbol of peace. I just came here to help my sister. That's all." All Might goes, "Your sister?" And Deku goes, "Yeah." And he rips his arm out of All Might's hands and he goes, "Now, I'll be going." He starts to leave out the front doors and All Might lets him go. That's when Yumi, I forgot Yumi, whatever the fuck, Yumi runs out to Deku. Right, she runs out to Deku and she grabs a hold of him and says, "Where the hell do you think you're going, Izuku?" Deku's like, "I'm leaving." She goes, "You're just gonna show up and fucking do all that shit? Murder all those people, just leave? This isn't like back then." She shoves Deku. Deku goes, "Yeah, that's what my plan was." She goes, "Why the fuck did you show up in the first place then?" "Huh?" Deku goes, "I came here for you." And she goes, "You need to stop worrying about me. I have everything under control. I don't. And Deku goes, "You don't want me in your life? Or what?" And she goes, I don't want to see you for a while, okay? Not after what happened. I just can't look at you the same." Deku then says, "I can't look at me the same either." She says to Deku, "Just leave. I don't want to see you for a while, and I don't want you to talk to me I don't want you to look after me. I want you to live your own life. If I want to see you again someday, I'll come find you. But for now, just leave me alone. Okay, Zuko? Deku doesn't say a word. He walks out of the building, stone cold Steve Austin. Stone cold blank face. Walks out the door that he just said, he just basically, the door that he said, fuck you to, just kind of ripped open. Fuck physics. Deku leaves. And he starts jumping on top of houses just to get back to his apartment building. And now Mina realizes that, hey, I just fucked that guy last night. Deku goes back to his apartment. And he lies down on his bed and he's just like, I want to try that sleeping thing for once. It's been a long time since I've last slept. I wonder what it feels like. So Zuko lies down and his brain is fully active. And he just kind of sighs. And he starts to think for a while and he thinks he's figured out a way to. And so whenever you sleep, your brain just kind of powers down and shit. Like fully just off. Not like fully that, like if it were to do that, you wouldn't have any dreams and shit. If it would just mainly just kind of go down to lower functions. So that's what Deku does. And it just, he falls asleep properly. It's been almost a year since he actually has. And unless Deku just kind of, his brain just to go over everything, kind of connect the dots. Play connect the dots and shit, It's all coming together now. Perfect. And that's what Deku does. And so he enjoys his first nap. Because it's his first in a long, long time. And Deku gets starts to think. And he starts thinking about his sister. And he thinks, should I just stop talking to her forever? I'm probably going to ruin her chances of everything. And this is him in his head while he's asleep, by the way. He thinks to himself, I'm probably just going to ruin the chances of her exceeding with her dreams and everything. He sighs and he says, I should just stay out of her life. And that's where I'm going to leave it off. Now, before I say or do anything else, I'm not going to do a what if until either A, you guys say it's okay, or B, I'm done with this Alex Mercer series. I'm thinking of doing a what if where Deku has an ice and void quirk. It's pretty badass. Or a fucking what if Deku was a monster from the video game Evolve series. I will not do these unless you guys say you want me to upload those alongside the Alex Mercer what ifs. But half you motherfuckers won't comment or like the goddamn video or subscribe. So please fucking do any of that shit and tell me what you guys think. Alright. Peace and motherfucking chicken grease.